welcome to today's press briefing on the coronavirus. Welcome to our CID TV viewers, as well as those on our social media platforms. Today, unfortunately, we're experiencing some technical difficulties on the YouTube channel. However, we will be uploading the press briefing there. You can join us, however, on Facebook, as well as cable channels Logic 23, C3 Channel 3, and Flow 106. All right, well, a reminder to look online at gov.ky/coronavirus. If you have some questions that haven't been answered as yet, your answers should be there. Also, you should go online to eservices.gov.ky to find out any information you need on police clearances, vehicle licensing, as well as trade and business licensing and other services as well. Before we go to our panelists, we'd like to begin with a prayer from Reverend Ruth Stephenson.
Let us pray. Thank you, God, that you are the great physician who not only heals us, but who is very present in our time of need. Thank you that your desire is for our wholeness and well-being. And so we come to you knowing that your open arms will never fail us. With confidence in your promises, Lord, we lift up before you today the collective suffering of your word as a result of this coronavirus pandemic. Be with us during this time of sickness, death, fear, doubt, isolation, and grief. Let your word bring comfort to us. We pray, O God, for those already infected with the virus. May they experience your healing and power. We pray your protection and grace for all who are actively engaged in the fight against this virus. Protect them from becoming ill themselves and ease their anxieties as they carry out their duties. Thank you for our leaders, Lord. May they be inspired to discern and choose wisely as they determine how best to govern in this time of uncertainty. May each of us be mindful of our responsibilities to our neighbor. Reveal to us new and creative ways to come together in spirit and in solidarity. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
And thank you, Reverend Stephenson. We now welcome our panelists, His Excellency the Governor, Premier the Honourable Alden McLaughlin, and Minister of Health, the Honourable Dwayne Seymour. We also have with us Chief Medical Officer Dr. John Lee, as well as the Commissioner of Police, Mr. Derek Byrne, with us. We're going to begin today with Dr. John Lee's update.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I have no further results to report today. The laboratory is currently going through validation testing for new testing reagents that have arrived. I am very pleased to say that one of the patients who was admitted with COVID-19 has now been discharged from the respiratory unit, so bringing the hospitalized down in this country to 1 patient. 5 have fully recovered, 5 have clinically recovered, 19 have some symptoms, and 15 are asymptomatic. There's no change to the figures on Cayman Brac or Little Cayman. Thank you.
Dr. Lee, thank you very, very much for that update. We also have members of the media who are joining us today via Zoom from various locations across the island, all, of course, because of the importance of social distancing at this time. And members of the media, does anyone have questions for Dr. Lee? Actually, Wendy from CNS, can you please go ahead?
Thank you, Donna. I appreciate that. Dr. Lee, I wonder whether you're in a position to be able to explain to us how we're going to get the best out of these test kits that arrived today. We understand 165,000 of the kits from South Korea are here. Are there policies in place yet, or is there anything that you can tell us about how we're going to best utilize this significant number of tests, which could obviously be a game changer for how we manage our way out of this pandemic? Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. It's great to be able to talk about it as we've been working hard on it. This is a multi-step process, and I think, as you rightly said, there needs to be protocols in place. We have agreed changed protocols for testing, so we will loosen the ability for us to test, and we'll move away from the World Health Organization's recommendations to test more widely. That needs to have a final approval, which will be done tomorrow, but it's basically been approved by a clinical panel who've been drawn up to give their opinion about it. The other issue, of course, is the testing capacity in the laboratory, and 200,000 or 165,000, the ability to test that would challenge any laboratory. You can't clearly pass that through in a week. There is a finite length of time through which any test will need to be done, and especially when you pay attention to the quality assurance that must be done in order to get these tests right. What you do not want to do is push a lab too hard, and I know that the labs won't allow that, because they have to have the right steps in place to make sure that we can rely on the results that are coming out. In order to do the tests, it helps if I can try to explain the steps. So we first of all need to have the swabs in order to take the sample. We have we've received an emergency supply of 1,000 swabs that arrived yesterday. So in the short term, we don't have a limitation in swabs, as we're only using in the few teens for our new patients. We have had quite a few people who are in the government facility go through, but as that bulk has gone through, we're using sort of like 10 or 20 on the patients who we're testing at the minute. The swabs then need to be taken and taken to the laboratory, where there's a deactivation process where you're basically making the infectious material non-infectious so that you can put it through the rest of the testing process. That's quite a labor-intensive period. It requires work in a biosafety cabinet. There are, in fact, 4 biosafety cabinets across the island, 1 in the HSA, 1 in Doctors Hospital, and 2 in Health City. However, the biosafety cabinets are used for different purposes. For example, one of the biosafety cabinets at Health City is used for chemotherapy, so that would never be used for a process such as this. There are 2 biosafety cabinets that are on order for the HSA. In addition to having the cabinets, you also need the technicians who are able to do this process, and it's a skilled process to work with infectious material or potentially infectious material, but you can be trained to do it. So at the moment, we have 1 person that is doing this at the HSA. There are 2 further people who are being trained at the HSA, and both of those members of staff should be able to contribute to the process, which will not only enable us to use the cabinets when they arrive, but also enable a longer working span over the working day to get a bigger throughput in order to do the testing. At the moment, we can do about 150 tests a day, largely due to the slowdown in the cabinet side of things, but with improvements in that side, we should be able to push that up at the Health Services Authority, I understand, to around 500 a day. But that's not today. That's going to be over the next 10 days or so. And each day, things are improving a little bit with regards to training and the ability to do more. In addition to that, the machines that process things, in order for them to travel into the polymerase chain reaction machine, there's a robot that needs equipment, that needs to have supplies. There are kits that are needed by the robot, and there are also supplies that are needed by the PCR machine. We have a significant supply of those now, but it's not a limitless supply, so we need to continue to confirm our supply chains for those. I'm really pleased to announce that there's a lot of collaboration going across the island. So we've been talking to Health City about being able to train up their technicians in this particular type of skill, so that they may be able to become a center who could receive and do the initial processing for samples, for example, from the east side of the country. Doctors Hospital as well are nearly there with their ability to bring their PCR machine, their new PCR machine, online. And the HSA is going to, well, what we're going to try and do is sort of provide a countrywide approach to this, where everybody is using the same system and the same process, so that we can better share all the resources across all of the three hospitals who are able to contribute to this. Sorry about the long answer, but I hope I've sort of given you a bit more information to help you understand.
No, much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Lee. We're now going to move to Reshma from the Cayman campus. Reshma?
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Dr. Lee, can you provide us with how long you anticipate that process will take so that we can resume testing? And how many tests do we have outstanding waiting to be run?
I know everybody loves to get figures out of me for these things, and I don't have all of the figures for the tests outstanding, but they're not much different to what they were before, I'm led to believe. It's a matter of 10 or 20 that are outstanding, left to be run at the minute. There may actually be results later today, probably in the early evening. What's currently going through is the shipment from South Korea is going through its testing. We're checking that works on the machine that we have. That's what's happening. That's what's been happening so far today, Rashma.
Okay, and if the media has no more questions for Dr. Lee, we'll now ask the Commissioner of Police to come with his update. Meantime, I'd like to also thank our sign language interpreter, Ms. Carolyn Powell, for joining us. Commissioner?
Good afternoon. Very quiet overnight with no significant issues of a policing nature to report. Crime remains very stable and the hard curfew period continues to operate very, very well. Little Cayman last night, no issues overnight. Cayman Brack, 16 vehicles intercepted by police, 2 persons found in breach of curfew and warned for prosecution. Grand Cayman overnight, 120 vehicles intercepted by police, no breaches of curfew detected. 1 female pedestrian walking home after visiting a friend, found in breach of curfew and warned for prosecution. From 6 a.m. this morning, 2 persons were found in breach of curfew and warned for prosecution. One of those persons was found on Grand Cayman operating outside terms of work permit conditions, servicing a motor vehicle. And in Cayman Brack, a person was found at the supermarket on a date not designated. Business across the islands at supermarkets, banks, pharmacies and gas stations are operating well and without incident. Business continues to be well managed, well controlled, with social distancing protocols being followed. There is activity along the beaches with persons out walking and exercising, and a small number of persons are swimming in the water. Our helicopter and marine units remain deployed on extended tours monitoring marine and ground activity. A reminder again that daily exercise period is for 90 minutes between the hours of 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. Monday to Saturday. Just a quick mention of Easter as we approach the Easter weekend. A reminder that no camping on the beaches will be allowed and any such activity will be treated as a breach of curfew. I remind you again that Easter Sunday, the 12th of April 2020, is a full 24-hour lockdown from 12:01 a.m. until 12 midnight, which means that the hard curfew comes in at 7 p.m. on Saturday evening and remains in place right through Easter Sunday until the bank holiday Monday morning at 5 a.m. That is a hard curfew. If you should not be outside your premises, please do not be outside your premises. A reminder that we return to the curfew tonight, 7 p.m. until 5 a.m. in the morning. Persons not exempted in writing should not be out and about during these hours. Police, static and mobile patrols will be in place across the islands throughout the night to impose the curfew. Nothing further arises today. Thank you.
Okay, do we have any questions for the Commissioner from the press? Okay, Rashma, please go ahead.
Thank you, Donna. I just have one question for the Commissioner. If he could update us on the situation with the ticket books. Are you ready to issue tickets now, or is it still in the process stage?
So we're almost ready. It has been legally proofed by the Chief Magistrate and by Crown Counsel, ready to go. It's now at the printer, and we would expect that by Tuesday we will be in a position to activate the ticket process.
Okay.
Thank you.
If that's it for questions for Dr. Lee and the Commissioner at this time, we'll go back to them if we need to. We're going to move on now to our Honorable Premier, Mr. Alden McLaughlin, for his remarks today.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. I'll start with the usual world stats. Total cases worldwide now at 1,491,785. Total recovered, 319,064. In the U.S., cases now total 418,410. up 18,075 overnight. Total deaths, 14,240, up 1,399 overnight. Spain, 146,690, up 4,748 overnight. Total deaths, 14,673, up 628 overnight. Italy, 139,422, up 3,836 overnight. Total deaths, 17,669, up 542 overnight. France, 112,950, up 3,881. Total deaths, 10,869, up 541 overnight. Germany, 110,698, up 3,035 overnight. Total deaths, 2,192, up 176 overnight. China, 81,802, up 62 overnight. Total deaths, 3,333, up 2 overnight. United Kingdom, 60,733, up 5,491 overnight. Total deaths now at 7,097, up 938 overnight. Canada, 19,179, up 1,282 overnight. Total deaths, 427, up 46 overnight. Portugal, being added by request, 13,141 cases, up 699 overnight. Total deaths, 380, up 35 overnight. India, 5,749, up 398 overnight. Total deaths, 178, up 18 overnight. Philippines, 3,870, up 106 overnight. 182 deaths, up 5 overnight. Jamaica, total cases 63, still at 3 deaths. New York State, 149,316, up 6,932 overnight. Total deaths, 6,268, up 779 overnight. The British Overseas Territories in the Caribbean, Anguilla, 3, Bermuda, 39, 2 deaths, British Virgin Islands, 3 cases, Montserrat, 9 cases, Turks and Caicos, 8 cases, and 1 death. I don't have a great deal to report other than that. Today, I think by now, because the news has been everywhere, people know that we've successfully brought to Cayman 165,000 test kits from South Korea. There are a lot of people to thank for making that happen. His Excellency the Governor has a detailed report, and for fear that I miss someone out, I'm simply going to say a heartfelt thanks on behalf of myself and the government. And indeed, I think I can say the people of the Cayman Islands, to all of those private sector, those who introduced government to the company, those who have helped to fund the cost of the kits, those who have paid to have them brought here, and all of the team, particularly the team in the governor's office, led by Matthew Forbes, who really did the heavy lifting to make sure that these arrived here. It really has been a tremendous collaborative effort, and I think a true testament to the Cayman and Caymanian spirit. When we are faced with challenges, we rise to the occasion. So I won't steal any more of the governor's thunder. A lot of that has been stolen today because from the moment the plane landed, there were all sorts of questions about what this King Lear was doing here. So you can't keep secrets in Cayman. I keep telling people that you You got to live right because they can find you out. So I think that's all I really want to say. At the moment, I'm sure there'll be questions about a number of other things. Easter is coming up. I'll have a more fulsome report tomorrow about how the weekend is going to be treated. But yeah, I'll leave it there.
Mayor McLaughlin, His Excellency.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. So first of all, just in terms of where we are, I do want to say a big thank you to the community. It is increasingly clear that the curfews are operating extremely well, and I do thank the community for their cooperation. We really need to keep this going. Stay home, Cayman, and if we can get through another 10, 14 days of this and not see further outbreaks of positive cases, we really are in a position and we can start thinking about where we might go from there in a more positive and optimistic way. But there's so much hard work still to do. So thank you, everyone, for that. On the South Korea test kits, so yes, we've got the 165,000 here, which is excellent news. It was incredibly complex and challenging, both the procurement led by my office in collaboration with our Cayman Regiment played a role, the Ministry of International Trade, Investment, Aviation and Maritime Affairs, the private sector, and the British Embassy in South Korea in Seoul, who undertook due diligence to assure the quality of the testing kits. And as the Premier said, I do want to pay particular tribute to Matthew Forbes in my office, who was pivotal in making this happen. The team worked very closely with local businessmen Mr. Vernie Cole and Mr. Craig Merron, who provided the initial contacts for the suppliers. Our huge thanks to them. The logistics was supported by DART Corporation, who arranged and funded the aircraft charter to fly the consignment from Seoul via Anchorage to the Cayman Islands. 35,000 test kits had to be sent via commercial means to London due to capacity constraints on the chartered aircraft, and they will arrive at a later date. And I know there's a lot of interest in this. So the overall cost of the kits was US $4.4 million, representing a cost per kit of $22, which is competitive compared to the international market. In an incredibly generous gesture, local philanthropist Mrs. Suzanne Ann Oldie, OBE, donated half of the amount for the purchase of these kits. So again, a huge thank you to everybody involved in helping us do this. It really was Team Cayman at its best, and now puts us in a very good position to step up testing up to 500, 600 a day. We hope as soon as possible that we have the capacity to do, and that is a key part of our strategy now for suppressing this virus and hopefully being able to relax and open up at some point in the future. I want today as well to give a shout out to the people at the airport for the British Airways flight. I thanked a lot of people yesterday, but I do want to thank as well Albert Anderson, the Cayman Islands Airport Authority, and all the staff at Owen Roberts International Airport for their help with this first air bridge. That is greatly appreciated. One quick message on the emergency travel helpline. That is extremely busy at the moment. It only operates 9 until 5 Monday to Friday. The Deputy Governor is going to significantly increase the staff that are manning those phones. So do please keep ringing in and giving us your information if you do want to leave the islands, despite the challenges of doing that, which is being looked at the moment. There is an email address as well, emergencytravel@gov.ky. So if you can't get through on phones, do send an email to that team. And then finally, perhaps on a lighter note, I mean, I know Easter is coming up, and I know Easter is incredibly important in Cayman, and I do think especially of our children who have seen so many changes. They're very young to understand a lot of them. But I know that the Premier and I spent a long time discussing this morning, and we have agreed that the Easter Bunny is an essential worker. So provided the Easter Bunny stays at home, he or she will be allowed out over Easter. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the laugh, Governor. All right, we now move on if we have no questions for His Excellency. Question from Wendy at CNS.
Go to Minister Seymour. Okay.
Hello, Donna. Sorry, my question's actually for the Premier. I don't
No, we don't want to get into those.
know whether you're
think Minister
continuing with the panel first.
Oh, okay. Just 1 second for me, Wendy. We're going to move to our Honorable Minister of Health, Mr. Dwayne Seymour.
Thank you, Donna. Good afternoon, Grand Cayman, Cayman Brac, and Little Cayman. I'm sure you all have seen how much sun has been shining lately and killing that coronavirus. Did you know that the flu epidemic tends to die out at winter's end? What an awesome God. Scripture today, you restored me to health and let me live. Surely it was for my benefit that I suffered such anguish. In your love, you kept me from the pit of destruction. You have put all my sins behind my back. I want to give a shout out to all the delivery drivers. You're doing a great job. Keep it up and keep within your time. Also want to shout out all the children, school children who religiously did your online participation with school work, especially those who wore their school uniforms while at home so their teachers could see. Congrats to you. Today, our message, our translation, is the country of Nepal and South Korea. Of course, South Korea, and thanks for our test kits. And I'll say thanks to them. In Nepalese, King Paya, Nabu, Gama, Ni, Bus Nuhus. And in South Korean, Kuk Childan, Jonga, Unen, Shimben, Suisio. And thanks to South Korea, Gamsa, for allowing us to get those test kits. I would like to take this opportunity to wish the Cayman Jewish community a happy Passover. Passover begins at sundown on today, Wednesday 8th. Also, I'd like to thank CIBC, First Caribbean, for coming through with their promise as announced earlier a few days ago, and delivered the support to government to allow us to purchase more test kits and other supplies needed in the sum of US $25,000. I thank you again to CIBC First Caribbean, and we hope that more persons come on at a time like this and work together with the government. I'd like to start today by saying thank you, Cayman. After my appeal for blood donors last week, the blood bank now has a couple weeks worth of donations on hand. Within a few days of my first public appeal, the blood bank received 67 units of red blood cells and have 15 new donors. It makes me very proud to hear about members of the community providing this gift, the gift of life to those in need. Although the blood bank has a few weeks of blood supply, since blood has an expiry date, they will continue to take donations from this point forward. They can be contacted on 244-2674. Email info@bloodbank.ky, or you can schedule an appointment online at bloodbank.ky. It is important to call or go online to schedule an appointment and not travel to the hospital unless you have a confirmed appointment. Moving on, I'd like to give an update on the flu clinic and flu. Since the opening of the new flu clinic, March 16th, the flu clinic has had 370 patients visit, 34 of those in Cayman Brac. Over the past few weeks, we have seen 69 patients in Grand Cayman and 10 in Cayman Brac. This number is higher than the previous week, which was 61 and 6 respectively, which can attribute to people calling in the flu hotline first or self-medicating at home. In total, the hotline has received over 1,959 calls since mid-March. The average number of calls this past week is around 62 per day, which is less than the previous average of 75 per day. The majority of these patients seen at the flu clinic are adults aged 20 to 64, although the number of children seen in the flu clinic is much lower than adults. They are also a vulnerable group. Therefore, the Health Services Authority has opened up a flu clinic dedicated just to children. This clinic is open Monday to Friday, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m., and is located just inside the hospital behind the current flu clinic. This is a precautionary measure taken to keep the children separate from the adult flu cases. Converting this space into a fully equipped pediatric flu clinic is another proactive measure our health system is taking to help ensure the health and safety of our country's children. As a reminder, if you're experiencing flu symptoms, please call the flu hotline first, as the medical professionals who man these lines will advise you as to what you should do and the next steps to take. For instance, they may recommend you self-medicate at home, or depending on your symptoms, you may need to come to the flu clinic. This applies for Cayman Brac residents as well as Faith Hospital, also has a flu clinic. It is important to call ahead to be properly triaged and then follow the directions of the flu hotline. Those numbers are 1-800-534-8600 or 947-3077 or flu@hsa.ky. As you know, 165,000 of the 200,000 tests arrived from South Korea this morning, which is great news. We now also have 1,320 swabs, which are required to conduct the tests, with more orders on the way. Our COVID-19 response team, including the CMO and public health, will prioritize who they will be testing first in regards to essential frontline workers. There were many people involved to make this happen, and we thank you. This involved the governor's office, local businessmen, DART, CBC, Port Authority, HSA and their facilities team, Public Works, and Thompson Shipping, who provided the refrigerated containers to store the test kits, among others. The public and private hospitals are also working together, as the CMO mentioned yesterday, to put in place processes to get the samples tested in an effective and efficient manner, utilizing testing capacities across the island. Yesterday, I asked banks to consider opening additional branches to help with congestion at the current limited locations. In addition to the over-the-counter transactions, which are still open to the public, there's a lot of work going on behind the scenes for individuals and business alike. I want to send special thanks to the local banks, their management and staff, who are working tirelessly behind the scenes to meet their payment deadlines and process the necessary transactions which the government needs in order to secure supplies for patients and frontline staff and first responders. We appreciate everything you're doing to help keep these crucial transactions moving forward. I'd like to also give a few other shout outs to Jacqueline Harrison, who has been helping with frontline staff accommodation, and Andra Famoy, who has been assisting with urgent curfew requests, including those that need letters for making blood donations. The Public Works Department has been an incredible help to the HSA in assisting with multiple projects, including relocating the physiotherapy department to Smith Road Center, setting up of the respiratory care unit, setting up the flu clinic, and assisting with the shipments of the new supplies arriving on island. I also want to say, as the Premier mentioned on a numerous amount of times, that the remittance services I have not seen a letter. They're supposed to write to government to express their concerns and their intent of how they plan to move forward. And I have not seen that as yet. I don't know if the Premier has seen it, but I know we get a lot of requests on a daily basis of persons who want to send money off, etc. I thank you and God bless.
Thank you, Minister Seymour. Before we move on, I'd like to tell you that you can now go on YouTube. The channel is back up as well. We have with us in the studio today Dr. Samuel Williams Rodriguez, the Medical Officer of Health, if you have any questions for him. So we're going to move into the questions now, first coming from Cayman News Service. Wendy, please go ahead. Wendy, please unmute your mic.
Yeah, sorry, I was struggling there I was writing notes.
No worries, go ahead.
I would like to ask Dr. Lee some follow-up questions regarding the testing. Can you hear me okay? Would you prefer me to do my Dr. Lee question first or the one for the Premier?
Dr. Lee is moving towards the podium now, so that's fine. Please go ahead.
Right. Dr. Lee, my question is regarding who and where the people that we're going to be testing first. I understand that healthcare workers and other frontline staff are essential, but there have been a lot of inquiries with regards to people who have self-isolated at home, who have not been tested, but may have had contacts with others or very mild symptoms. But will we be able to start, have we kept a track of those numbers? And will you then be able to start testing those types of people as well?
Yeah, so that's exactly the group that we want to have a look at, Wendy. So to get a better feeling for the prevalence that may be there that we may not have been capturing fully because of the quite strict WHO guidelines. So that is one area that would loosen up so that any healthcare professional could make their own decision about whether they felt somebody should be tested for COVID-19.
Thank you. And my only question for the panel was for the Premier. Really, it's about the schools. We have literally hundreds of questions about education every day. So we were wondering whether the Minister could come back. And also, in a more short-term one, is the school reopening day, which was set for later this month, I think, is that still a realistic target, or is it much more?
No, it's not. It's no longer realistic. Quite frankly, the schools will be among the last things to reopen when we reopen. And I will arrange with the minister so that she can join us by Zoom. We'll get that worked out for next week.
Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy. Thank you, Premier McLaughlin. Now we're going to move to Felicia Rankin from Radio Cayman. Felicia?
Hi, good afternoon. My questions are for the Premier. There have been rumors circulating that some medical supplies that were on its way to Cayman have been seized or prevented from coming to Cayman from the U.S. Is there any truth to this?
Yes, I'm afraid there is. Yesterday, the U.S. authorities actually removed from a vessel, a ship that was coming to Cayman, a container which contained 8 ventilators and 50,000 masks and various other bits and pieces which I don't have the details of. And so that has been a huge disappointment to us. All of those were things that were produced and purchased in the United States.
And is there any idea if those items will be released, or are they just not coming to the island at all?
Well, I'm sure we're working through the various diplomatic channels on it, but there seems to be a policy now to prevent the shipment out of the United States of certain key pieces of equipment. And PPE and ventilators, if you're following the news, which I'm sure everyone is doing, you will see are in quite short supply in a number of the really hard-hit states in the United States with regard to COVID-19.
Okay. My next question, there have been some store owners of liquor stores that have said they were told they would need to close from this evening. Have there been any changes to operating hours for the liquor stores?
None that I'm aware of. There are so many rumors around. We spend half the day chasing down false stories and fake news and trying to hammer them on the head. So I presume this is just another one of those because none of us know anything about that.
Okay. And just my last question. We've also received some labor-related complaints, things like non-payment of salaries. For issues like that, where should they be directed? Where should people go to voice their grievances?
Well, work will have to entertain those complaints and to deal with them. Are people saying that they're not having access to that?
Yes, they're saying that their salaries aren't being paid. They're not getting access to their
No.
money.
I mean that they're not having access to the services provided by work.
Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you for letting me know that. And if you have any particular details, can you send them to me by WhatsApp, and I'll speak to the relevant persons to see if we can get the process moving.
Okay. Sorry, correction. There's no problem with work.
Oh.
They just aren't getting paid by their employees, and they don't know where they should go to for this issue.
Yeah, but that would be
Sorry,
work. That would be work.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
And Felicia, as I've been mentioning, they can go on gov.ky/coronavirus, and they can scroll down to many categories there, and one of them is under resources, where they can find all sorts of information and contact details for work. So hopefully that helps. I do have a few questions from the public. One is either for Dr. Lee or Dr. Sam. I'm not sure which one. The waste that's produced by coronavirus patients is considered a biohazard. How is that being stored and disposed of? Okay, Dr. Samuel Williams is coming to the podium.
Delegated.
Thanks, Alan, for that question. We have been in communication with the Department of Environmental Health, and instructions have been given to them following the CDC guidelines of how to dispose of waste material, and also for the staffing, how to protect themselves.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Samuel. Dr. Lee, did you have something to say? No? Okay. Just a few more questions. Premier McLaughlin, I know that you said that you would address the weekend, the Easter weekend announcements tomorrow. However, a lot of people, particularly those like myself, whose last initials begin with A to K, are concerned that they may not be able to go to the grocery store on Friday. Should they do all their shopping today in just a few hours, or what?
Yes. Yes,
So
Good Friday is not a hard curfew day. Some people have been asking me that question, but Good Friday, like Christmas Day, traditional in Cayman, fortunately nothing opens. So
we got to get to shopping.
you got to get to shop for that.
Thank you very much. Also, another question, maybe this one is for the Minister of Health, I'm not sure. Seamen and veterans and those who get government assistance, a lot of them are elderly persons who just walk to the government building and collect their checks. They're not able to do that now. What's the process in place for them to collect their checks?
I really don't know how to answer that question. I'll have to check. I mean,
Okay.
we've been issuing payments we issued payments to the seamen and to the veterans last month. We also did the additional, shall I call it, hardship bit. So there is a process in place, and I really haven't heard many screams. And believe you me, I usually hear them fairly quickly if there are significant problems with any processes.
Okay.
So I presume that the system, whatever system they've put in place, has been working quite well.
Okay. I have one final question, and then we'll go back to the rest of the media platforms. Considering the loss of these much-needed supplies through the U.S. at this point, of course, your teams are still working on getting them released. Is there any consideration being given to how the loss of that shipment can be subsidized, and how much of a hard hit is that, really?
Well, there were 4 ventilators. They were refurbished ventilators, not brand new ones. But we've been trying, and we do have sources. We're trying to get another 30 ventilators here, which would, in terms of per capita, would put us into the stratosphere compared to any other country in the world. And I have to talk to the folk who are doing that now about how this experience here impacts their thinking, and what workarounds we can put in place to ensure that we get what we need. We have a significant amount of PPE that should be on its way here fairly shortly. That's from China, so we're a bit nervous about even that going through the United States. So we're seeing what we can do. There are a whole lot of moving parts that are going on, and a lot of work to try to make sure that should the worst occur, while we're working hard to keep that from happening, but should the worst occur, that we will be super prepared here to deal with very sick people in numbers, and that we're able to ensure that our frontline staff, and particularly the medical staff, have the best quality and quantity, and enough in terms of quantity of PPE to be able to deal with the patients.
Just a general message I'd like to share on behalf of the general public, as well as Mr. and Mrs. Stanley Scott, to the panelists. They thank you for your hard work. They're praying for all of you, and they feel that you deserve to have at least a Friday off, maybe even Sunday. So they would not have a problem if you decided to do that.
But I might as well say that
Go on.
The governor and I have taken an executive decision that unless there is something really remarkable, Friday and Sunday there will be no press conference, and we are directing that the lab be closed as well, so people can get some rest.
Okay. Thank you for that. I really appreciate that. Dr. Lee?
Sorry, just to update you on a couple of things that I've been able to check up in the meantime. The number of samples waiting to be tested is 21 from the day yesterday, and 27 from today. Additionally, about the issue of trash or rubbish, there is in the frequently asked questions section of the gov.ky/coronavirus, it gives the information that I thought was there. I just needed to check that it was there about trash in case you have COVID, and that you should put it aside for 72 hours before you put it out, and to double bag it. Thank you.
And Dr. Lee, of those 48, do you know how many were students, or do we not have that?
I don't think we're waiting for any students.
Students is finished.
No, sir.
Okay. Do we have any questions from the media for Dr. Lee or anyone else on the panel? Okay, Reshma, go ahead.
Thank you, Donna. Just for the Premier to go back to that point that he was making about the medical supplies, just to clarify, were these items already on its way, or had the vessel left when the U.S. authority seized them? And can you say which U.S. authority? Was it Customs, or do you have that information readily available?
No, Reshma, I don't have that level of detail. My understanding was that the container with the supplies had been loaded aboard the ship in preparation for its departure to Cayman, when it was stopped by the U.S. authorities and removed. The vessel was stopped and the container removed. I don't have any other detail than that.
Okay, thank you. This is not the first time that the U.S. authorities has done this. We have at least 5 countries that have had the situation develop. What level of action is the Cayman Islands government going to take? Is the Attorney General going to get involved, the UK government as well, to try and get us these much needed supplies?
We're going to do everything we can.
Okay. This one, I know Minister Seymour touched on this earlier this week. You also talked about it. It's the money transfer services. You said one proposal had been rejected. What happened with the second proposal? Because the questions keep coming about from the public on this, can you provide us with any further information on that?
No, I don't have any further information. I don't, but I'll have another one with Mr. Bush, with Eric Bush afterwards. But I think the concerns still remain regarding the lack of adequate provision to ensure social distancing and the risks involved. As I say, we're struggling as it is with the banks, not so much inside the banks, but outside. The banks and the supermarkets still pose the greatest public health risk with respect to this disease because of the sheer number of people who congregate in queues to get in to those facilities. And we are loath, absolutely loath to make create another situation which makes the risk that much greater. So I haven't actually looked at this myself. I'll try to do so this afternoon. But I certainly have had no recommendations from the team that this is something that we should move to approve. We know that it is a great inconvenience to a significant portion of the population, particularly the expat population. But we have to weigh that in the balance against the risks that this that congregation of many people will create. The only thing I can say to many people, because we've had requests now to open the automobile parts stores, to open the Department of Vehicle and Driver's Licensing. I got a long list of, after I went through that list, I said, well, we might as well forget about the curfew because we're just going back to business as usual. Or yes, to open the stores that provide stationery and computer supplies and so forth, is that if we all just batten down the hatches, suck some of this up and the pain and the inconvenience for another few weeks, we might just be able to relax many of these things once we are satisfied that there is no significant risk of the virus continuing to spread through the community here. But if we keep messing about with this and opening this and opening that, creating more opportunities for people to interact with each other and to contract the virus, we're going to be, dying by 1,000 cuts for months as we keep trying little by little to stamp out the virus. Let's all understand that we have to deal with the inconvenience and the hardship that this is causing for another few weeks. And if we are successful in that endeavor, life can get back to some semblance of normalcy. But if we keep having case after case popping up in the community, we just keep pushing back the date when life can return to some semblance of normalcy. By 2 weeks, every time we get another positive case.
Thank you, Premier. I appreciate that. My final question, because it came in, quite a few people today sent it in, and there were quite a few lines at the supermarket today with the alphabet scenario as it is, have asked if there's any special consideration being given to allow them to be able to complete their purchases maybe later on, or a special provision that could be given to them on Saturday, because after today, there's no shopping for them until Monday. And that's my final question for today.
No, we've looked at it. The risks are just too great. We are considering, and I've spoken to the Commissioner about Cayman Brackbeard, the numbers are smaller, and the fact that supermarkets don't open in the Brack on Easter Monday, but they do open in Cayman on Easter Monday. So it's not from Wednesday until the following Wednesday. It'll be from Wednesday to Monday.
Okay, if that's all the questions we have from members of the media, we'll ask our panelists if they have any final words for us today.
I just wanted to
Mr. Seymour.
give an update on, before we leave anyone out, this is such a great undertaking in terms of getting the test kits here. I was approached, started with me actually, being approached by businessman Craig Marin. I'm not going to take the full credit for it. I get approached every day by people who say that they can deliver test kits and masks and everything in the world, PPEs, and we all know that not everybody can deliver what they say they can. I've known Craig for a while, and I trusted his source, and I asked a few questions, as I do all the time before these things happen. This is a great thing that this country is been able to receive that amount of test kits, and I always turn them over to the CEO of the hospital first, so that they can do their vetting, and Dr. Williams and Dr. Lee also, and I wait for comments back from them before I even proceed with moving on, and then it's turned over then to Ms. Dawn Cummins, the CFO at HSA. So I wanted to shout out Ms. Lizette, Dr. Williams, Dr. Lee, and Dawn Cummins for the work that they did initially in trying to make this happen, along with the governor's office and everyone else, and Eric Bush and everybody. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Minister Seymour.
Yeah.
His Excellency, Premier McLaughlin, no final words? All right, well, before we go, we'd like to remind everyone, if you're having employment issues and you'd like to make any complaints, you're actually going to go online to gov.ky/coronavirus and look under the Department of Labor and Pensions for any answers to those issues that you may have there. Also, and for any other unanswered question that you may have had. Again, if you need information in regards to police clearances or vehicle licensing or trade and business licensing, you can go online along with other services information to eservices.gov.ky. We'd like to say thank you to everyone who made today's press briefing possible. Again, we thank you, the viewing public and listening public, for joining us, and we hope you'll do the same again tomorrow.
I know many persons are tuning in right now hoping to see another episode of Double Six Foes. But as this is the final day and myself and many others are going to be in the isolation facility, we wanted to say thank you. Please enjoy.
Thank you, thank you, thank you from the bottom of my heart. It's Judith Crawford from room 212.
Big thank you to the isolation staff from room 522, Kayla Elliott.
Thank you to the isolation team from Andres McDermott in room 525.
Hi, isolation team. I can't thank you guys enough. Coming from room 312, Shakira Levi.
My name is Shamel Williams, and I'd like to say thank you to the isolation team from room 331.
To everybody in the isolation staff here at Comfort Suites, I really appreciate everything you have done for us in the past 2 weeks. And I just want to say a big, big thank you and much love from Torian Shields in 49.
Thank you from Chelsea Frederick in room 430.
Thank you to the isolation team from Dominique in room 308.
I would like to sincerely thank the isolation team here at the Comfort Suites for making us feel so at home for the last 2 weeks. I'm room 324, Martina Bodden.
Hey isolation team, Jacrisha from 521. Just wanted to thank you for all the work you've put in these past 14 days. Thank all of you guys.
Just wanted to say a big thank you to the isolation team from room 224, Jessica Holston.
I would just like to say a big thank you to the isolation team. This is Joel Gale, room 313.
I'm Renee from room 404, and I would like to say to the staff who have been taking care of us in isolation, thank you very much. Your work has been appreciated.
Thank you from Jeffy with the Belly, room 416. Yo, you're forgetting to thank the government and everybody who help us. Just give me a minute now, brother. Watch out. Now you're gonna go vex me.
Hello, Cayman Islands.
My name is Sergeant Gill from the Cayman Black Detachment.
I am Lance Corporal Thompson from the Cayman Islands Cadet Corps.
This is Corporal Carter from the Cayman Black Detachment.
I'm Corporal Alawania O, an NCO from the Cayman Islands Cadet Corps.
I am Corporal Williams from the Cayman Islands Cadet Corps.
I'm Corporal Hansraj T from the Cayman Islands Cadet Corps.
I am Corporal Webb.
I am Lance Corporal Ferguson.
My name is Corporal Blakey.
I am Lance Corporal Camarati from the Cayman Islands Cadet Corps.
I have a very important message for you guys.
COVID-19 is having a huge impact around the world and affecting everyone's lives.
And I wanted to say,
keep washing your hands and practice social distancing when necessary.
As young Caymanian cadets, we have pledged to uphold the importance of
following the advice of our medical professionals
and government leaders to stay at home.
Caymanians, residents of the Cayman Islands, listen to what I have to say. Stay home, Cayman, to save Cayman.
Stay home, Cayman, to save Cayman.
Stay home, Cayman, to save Cayman.
Stay home, Cayman, to save Cayman. Thank you.
This message has been approved by the Cayman Islands Cadet Corps.